Well, News 8's Brian Roach has been at the scene all afternoon. He even witnessed the blast. Brian, what's going on?
Well, Kim, they're still working on the gas leak even as we speak at this hour, but I did see that building explode this afternoon. The building is directly over my left shoulder here now. You can see the debris, but let's go right to some pictures that we took just seconds after this building exploded, shortly after 1 o'clock this afternoon. We had just been doing an interview with Dwayne Hagelgans, a fire chief in the area, and we had just wrapped up the tape, and I was standing here in the parking lot talking to someone on the phone back at the WGAL newsroom, and that's when the building exploded. Fortunately, no one was in the building at the time. We are told that just a few minutes before that, a dog had been taken out of the building. Let's get the very latest in the situation now. Dwayne Hagelgans is the chief with the Blue Rock Fire Rescue. And Dwayne, we hear noise here in the background. What's going on as we speak?
Yeah, basically UGI bore holes into the ground and they're venting out the gas that's underneath the ground. They finally got the gas shut off at the main, which was the most important thing because that was pushing out about 50 PSI from an 8-inch line.
That indicates how dangerous this is. This leak developed almost 5 hours ago, and we're still trying to get gas out of the ground?
That's true. We still have gas underneath the ground. We have it in the properties. With these boreholes, what will happen is it'll pull it out of the houses and pull it out of the ground and get it out of from underneath.
So the gas is still coming out of the ground. The danger is not completely past yet.
No, there's still a danger. The gas is absolutely still underneath the ground at this point.
This building that exploded, you're telling me earlier that this is owned by one of the firefighters here?
Yes, it's actually owned by the fire chief of our Millersville station.
And firefighters had been in there just a few minutes before this happened?
Firefighters entered the property to save one of our firefighters' dogs.
So were you surprised by this when the building went up?
Well, I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've been to hundreds of these. This is the first time I was on the scene when one actually blew up, but you know, there was enough gas and enough properties that we kind of expected something bad was going to happen.
It was a pretty dangerous situation here, wasn't it? It still is.
Oh, absolutely. It still is.
On that note, UGI officials just briefed us a few seconds ago about the leak and how they're working to contain it. Again, you can hear the air in the background. In fact, let me step out of the way here. You might be able to see this yellow cap, if you will, in the middle of the ground there. Very simply, that is venting, sucking the gas out of the ground that still remains in there right now. UGI officials say that as far as they are concerned, the line that they had marked was properly marked, and the contractor at the time was apparently boring sideways. Many of us are used to seeing a hole being dug in the middle of the street with a bulldozer going, or I'm sorry, a backhoe going straight down. This line was being dug sideways underneath the ground, underneath the intersection of Manor and George Street here in Millersville, and that's when the gas line was hit. For those of you familiar with the area, Manor and George is the busiest intersection in Millersville. In fact, hundreds, if not thousands of cars pass through this intersection every day to get to Millersville University, and this intersection is going to be tied up, we're told, until at least midnight tonight, possibly into tomorrow. Of course, we'll keep following that traffic situation. We're going to stay live here on the scene. Again, this is a very somewhat dangerous scene. The danger has been eliminated throughout the last few hours, but we are going to stay here and bring you updates as necessary. Back to you.
And Brian, I'm sure you can still smell it. I mean, it seems like you are really close to that.
We, I think in retrospect, Kim, we were dangerously close to it. As a matter of fact, there's a car right here behind me. That's where I was standing this afternoon. Let me twist it this way. That's where I was standing, right by that car when the building blew up. But the gas, when we got here around 12:30, the air was just filled with it. It was, in fact, downright nauseating at the time.
All right, Brian, thank you. Ron, over to you.
Oh, Kim, our team coverage of the Millersville gas explosion will continue now with News 8's Meredith Jorgensen. She joins us live from the scene with reaction to what's happened. Meredith.
Hi, Ron. What a scene here, as Brian described, is what is normally a very busy intersection. And what a thing to hear today. After hundreds of people were evacuated before the explosion, we talked to two people who are at different businesses right here, just feet from the blast. It's just a pile of rubble now, but that building was standing when Derek Price went to work at Penn Manor Beverage this morning. UGI crews were working right outside the shop to clamp the gas leak, but then the Framery building blew. Derek and others who were inside their homes and nearby businesses when it exploded didn't know what they would come outside to find.
I'm sitting inside the office inside of Penn Manor Beverage, and I was just listening to music and heard the loud thud, and I went out back, opened the large garage door, and saw all the windows from the Framery all broken out, and you could see the top corner of the house just busted off, laying in the street.
Thankful that we got out of there and it wasn't our building, and I'm sorry about their building.
Now, Carrie Fulton and her co-workers at the Barn Door restaurant weren't evacuated until after the explosion happened. Millersville University students who are just a few blocks away, they were alerted also about this blast at about 2 o'clock. The university sent a campus-wide emergency alert plus an email notification to let the students know what was happening at this end of the town. A couple things to follow up on. Electricity is out in most of this area. That's to keep another blast from happening. Trick or treat has been canceled in the borough of Millersville because of this dangerous situation. And we're also told that a shelter has been set up for anyone who is displaced or doesn't have electricity. That shelter is set up at the Blue Rock headquarters. And as Brian said, it could be hours before this situation resolves itself. That's the latest here in Millersville. Ron, back to you.
Yeah, it really is a wonder no one was hurt. All right. Thank you, Meredith.